Chapter 7, Ancient Greece. Section 4, Sparta and Athens. Today we're going to talk about two main city-states in ancient Greece, Sparta and Athens. So we're going to start with Sparta. Now the two city-states that we're talking about today are very opposite of each other. So we're going to start with Sparta, and Sparta is what we call a military state. They were all about the military. So when Sparta would conquer neighboring areas, they forced the people in those conquering areas to become slaves. And these slaves became known as helots. Now, even though they wanted to conquer all these neighboring lands and they made these people slaves, they always feared that these slaves, these helots, would rebel against the government. So that's why Sparta started to develop a very strong army, because they just feared that the helots would revolt against them. Now, if we're looking at this map here, Sparta is right here on the Peloponnesus down here. Okay, so Sparta was ruled by two kings, so you can kind of call the Spartans an oligarchy. They had 5 elected supervisors who ran the government along with the two kings. They also had a group called the Council of Elders, which proposed laws. And there were 3 main social groups in Sparta. You have citizens, you have free non-citizens, and you have the helots, who were the slaves. Now when it comes to the children, again, this was a military state, so the boys were being groomed for the military. So at the age of 7, well, let me start at the beginning. When you were born, you had to be deemed healthy. So if you were a healthy child, you lived. If you were a kind of sickly looking child, you were left in the woods to die. They only wanted healthy children. And for boys, at the age of 7, boys moved away from their homes and moved into military houses called barracks. And they trained for the military. And so they stayed in training from the age of 7 to the age of 20. When they reached the age of 20, they were now entered into the military. And they served in the military until they were 60. And at the age of 30, they were supposed to get married so they can create new children, new healthy children, so that the boys could be in the military. So we're all about creating a strong military. Women were supposed to be tough emotionally and physically. They wanted physically fit children, so the women had to be physically fit as well. They were allowed to own their own property, which is kind of unusual back in these ancient days. So let's draw our physically tough woman here. Her long hair, tough though. Her tough muscles right here. Her other arm. Kind of has Popeye arms with her big muscles here. Tough. Moving on to Athens. Athens was more of a democratic, thinking city-state, if you will. There were 4 social classes in Athens. You had citizens, free non-citizens, women, and enslaved people. And slaves made up about 1/3 of the population of Athens. And the slaves worked in homes, they worked out in agriculture on the farms, and industries like mining and, well, mines. And so that's Athens. Education was important to Athens, especially for the boys. Education was designed to prepare boys to become good citizens. They studied logic, public speaking, reading, writing, poetry, math, and music. Here's my music staff. And books. There's my book. Good education. Smart. Women were respected for being good wives and mothers. They also could be priestesses in temples and inherit property if there were no sons. We own property. Now we're going to talk about a series of wars that Athens and Sparta and some other Greek city-states fought against a common enemy known as the Persians, who we've talked about before. They come from the land, what we call today Iran. In the 500s BC, Persia conquered a land called Anatolia. Anatolia today is over there, well, it's kind of where Turkey is today, so it's across the Aegean Sea from Greece. In 499 BC, Athens sent ships and soldiers to help Anatolia, because there were some Greek colonies over there, but that revolt failed. Now, Persia wasn't going to be happy about this. They're not happy that the Greeks, or Athens for that matter, helped Anatolia. So in 490 BC, the Persians are going to send an army to go and capture Athens. And the Persians will arrive in 490 BC at a place called Marathon to punish Athens. And a big battle ensues. And the Greeks ended up winning. Athenians were outnumbered greatly by the Persians, but as they drew the Persians closer to their lines, the center of their lines, the Athenians surrounded them and attacked, and they were able to defeat the Persians. And so the Athenian general sent a messenger to go send a king back to, or a message to the king back at Athens saying, we won. So this guy runs and runs and runs and runs. He runs and runs and runs to Athens from Marathon. It's about 26.2 miles. And he gets to the king and he goes, we won! And then keels over from a heart attack and dies. Now today, we honor that gentleman who ran from Marathon to Athens in what we now know as the long distance run called the Marathon. And when you see those events like in the Olympics of this guy running, people running 26 miles, that's in honor of this guy who had to go give the message to the king. Anyway, the Greeks defeated the Persians as this first major battle of the Persian Wars. The next battle will occur in 480 BC when the Persians invaded Greece once again. And this time, all the Greek city-states, well, many of the Greek city-states, united together because it's a common enemy, the Persians. 300 Spartans are going to try to protect Athens. They guarded a pass at a place called Thermopylae, and their goal was to stop the Persians from reaching Athens. In this major battle, the Persians wiped out the Spartans, but the Spartans held up very valiantly. But all 300 of the Spartan soldiers who were blocking that pass were killed in that battle, the Battle of Thermopylae. But it did give Athens time to prep for the battle that was about to ensue between them and the Persians. So the Athenians are going to fight a naval battle against the Persians in a narrow body of water where the Persians could barely move. So it's like the Greeks kind of lured this Persian navy into this really small little body of water where it was too small for all these ships that the Persians had. So the Persians were kind of stuck there. And the Greeks used this new type of weapon called Greek fire is what it was called. But they had put this kind of oily substance on top of the water, and they lit it on fire, which in turn lit the Persian ships on fire. And the Greeks, the Athenians, will sink 300 of the Persian ships, and they will win this battle called the Battle of Salamis in 479 BC. After that battle of Salamis, the Persians went home, and the Greeks had won the Persian Wars. That is the end of section 4.